This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also for the most part unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 69th time ever, we are alive. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very late edition of the Reviewing Network Live. In fact, it's so late that I kind of had to trim my plans down for this particular week. This week I was going to do my best and worst TV shows of 2024, but time was not a factor for me today, I should say, and I just ran out of time to finally get down to this. Of course, we have the NFL playoffs going on right now. Had to make a lot of videos for like the eliminations and who clinched and who got the championships and all that. So, and I also do a movie stop today as well. A lot of videos I had planned had to be postponed and just out of the picture for today, but I did want to get this one out of the way because a couple stories this week happened, and this is officially the last episode of the year. Next time I do the show, it'll be 2025. So there are a couple things I do want to bring up here, and as you can tell, my voice isn't really working in my favor today. I think I might be sick again, which sucks because I just went through this last month, but everyone else in my family got sick this week at Christmas time, and I guess where we all did on Wednesday, we all went around for Christmas, and I guess I got it. So hopefully I can get through this without too much coughing in general, but I'll do my best. But like I said, I had to cut this down a bit and trim this down to some stories I wanted to cover here. But of course, before we do any of that, we got to talk about the weekend box office, and once again, very busy Christmas weekend box office. A lot of things that happened this weekend were to be expected overall. A lot of the family films had a lot of play over the holiday season, and they're going to continue to have play because there isn't a big new family film coming out until the end of the month. Next month, I should say. So, without further ado, let's just get right to it. And we'll start with movies that we've talked about before. Moana 2, number 5 on the list, which brought in $18.2 million. Actually had a 37% increase from last week, close to 38%. After 5 weeks, it's brought in $394.6 million. Worldwide, it's up to $882 million. I've had to say my say about that movie. Number 4 is the number 3 film from last week, Wicked, which also had a 30% increase from last week. $19.4 million, bringing its 6-week gross up to $424.2 million. Worldwide, it's up to $634 million worldwide. So, easily the biggest hit of the holiday season, no question about it. So now we get into some new releases. And there were some notable new releases this weekend, but none bigger than number 3 on the list, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, which brought in $21.2 million because it opened up on Wednesday. So if you bring in the 5-day total, it's up to $40 million, $40.3 million, which was a massive, massive hit in general. This movie was very much highly anticipated. Did not cost a whole lot of money at all. It only cost $50 million is still a lot of money, but not a lot of money compared to like some of the big blockbusters in general. But film did very well with critics, and just goes to show you that you can open a horror film on Christmas weekend if you have the right director who can bring people in and a movie that people want to see. And everyone really wanted to see this movie. I want to see this movie. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I don't think I'm going to get to it before I get to my top 10 list, which I'll do next week. Like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but I do want to see it. I want to get around to it. I probably will get around to it sometime in the new year, but not right away. But now let's get to 2 movies that dominated last weekend, and I finally did get to see this week. So let's begin with the number 2 movie this week, number 2 last week, which was Mufasa the Lion King, which had a 4.8 increase from last week, $37.1 million. After 2 weeks, it's up to $113.4 million. Worldwide, it's already over $327 million. A lot of people have been railing on this movie, saying it's not that good. It's definitely another one of these bad Disney live-action remakes. I saw the movie. I kind of enjoyed it. I actually did like it a lot better than the Jon Favreau one. Because this one, they actually did take chances with it. There were some songs in there that I thought were pretty good overall. I think the songs were okay for the most part. My biggest problem with it is the story, and it's just the way that they build up Scar. Like this movie is basically a prequel mixed with a sequel, where you have an opportunity to do something different compared to the other Lion King sequels, and just the way they introduced the idea of what made Scar turn into the evil villain that he eventually becomes, it's pretty fucking stupid. It's really, really stupid when you really think about it. And it's just like, when that happened, it was just like, that's it? That's the only reason why he went this route? I mean, there's no other reason whatsoever? Like, I'm not going to say it's a great movie overall, but I think it's a much better movie than people let on. I think the visuals are very nice to look at. I think there is a better idea of what they try to do here. They're trying to do something separate compared to the other movies, but yeah, at times the story really does miss the mark big time in terms of, like, building up the emotional moments and all that, and it just really hurts the ebb and flow in the long run, unfortunately. So yeah, that's overall, I would give it maybe a a borderline marginal thumbs up, bordering on a mixed opinion. Like I don't I like it, but I'm not gonna lie and say that the people who say there are a ton of flaws to it are not wrong. I mean, they're definitely right about that, but I think it's a lot better than people let on. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the number one movie this week, which was the number one film last week, which is Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which I also did get to see this weekend. $38 million. This one had a 36% drop-off. So it actually dropped off compared to the other family films out this weekend, who actually saw their revenue go up a little bit. Nevertheless, it still made up to $137.5 million domestically. Worldwide, it has crossed over $200 million as it's opening up in more markets. Really good movie. Probably the best of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which really isn't a surprise because these movies are so much fun all across the board. They get better and better with every film. They bring in more of the characters from the storyline and actually make it more epic and more intriguing and more engaging every single time. And I've been a big fan of these movies all the way through. I think this is the best one of the bunch so far. I would give this one a strong thumbs up, honestly. And I'll delve more to these down the road here later on a couple of weeks from now. But with that said, that's the top 5. There were some other Christmas Day releases that came out, most notably Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown, the new film from James Mangold, which didn't do too bad. It brought in $11.6 million for the 3-day weekend, but if you include Wednesday and Thursday, it brought in $23.1 million, which the budget on this was $60 to $70 million. It cost us $60 to $70 million to make, so might have a little bit of trouble making its money back, but I think if the awards buzz is big enough, it will definitely find its audience overall. Even though it's got not the best overall reviews overall, but people seem to really enjoy the film. The other new release that came out this weekend was The Fire Inside, which opened at number 10, which I've been seeing a lot of commercials for it as of late, but didn't really do a whole lot in terms of box office. It only brought in $2 million over the weekend. If you include Wednesday and Thursday, $4.3 million. The budget on it is $12 million, so it's not a bad opening overall, but it's probably going to take a little bit for it to make its money back. The film got a lot of really good positive reviews, and I like the actress Ryan Destiny, who was in a very underrated show on Fox called Star, which came out around the same time as Empire and Glee. But I thought that was a really good show. Brian Tyree Henry, I mean, good lord, that guy is such a great actor. Watch him in Transformers, for God's sake. So Transformers 1, he's incredible. And it's also the second movie released in the last couple of days that has Barry Jenkins involved in it, because Barry Jenkins, of course, directed Mufasa and the Lion King, and then he wrote The Fire Inside. That's another one I'll probably get to down the road here, but that's the weekend box office in general, so that's probably going to be that way for the next couple of weeks, because there isn't any big new blockbusters coming out until the very end of the month when you have stuff like Dogman coming out. But in the meantime, let's get to the couple of news stories I want to bring up here, because there were some notable news stories that came out just this weekend. A lot of death this weekend, and of course today, if you haven't heard the news, Jimmy Carter, a former president of the United States, died at 100 years old. He actually lived to be the longest living president ever, which Hey, good on him, man. I mean, good on him for lasting that long. And I know the last year or so he was really struggling to keep up. And I mean, he had a good life. He lived to be 100. I mean, Lord knows, I think a lot of us want to live to be 100 or so. But that was that was something that just happened today. We also had Linda Lavin also passed away today too, and we also had Charles Shire, the director of the father of the Bride remake, did a lot of stuff with Nancy Myers. He died over the weekend, but it started on Friday when a lot of us were really shocked to hear that Greg Gumbel died. Greg Gumbel, if you don't know, was of course a veteran sports anchor for many networks: ESPN, CBS, NBC. He had been all across the board, and he died on Friday at the age of 78 due to cancer. And of course, you may know his brother Brian Gumbel, which I was shocked to see that not only was Greg Gumbel the older brother of the two, but he's only 2 years older than Brian Gumbel is. Brian Gumbel's 76 years old. I mean, if you look at Brian Gumbel nowadays, like, I would have never been able to figure out that he was 76 years old. But lo and behold, yeah, that's absolutely true. But of course, Greg Gumbel started his career off at ESPN in 1981 as a sports anchor for Sportscenter, and he was there for the longest period of time until 1986. And then made the jump over to CBS in the 1990s, where he did the NFL Today with Terry Bradshaw, and then later would call some games for them for both CBS and CBS later on when they got the contract back again in 1998. And of course, he became known as the first African American to ever call a major sporting event, which that one was of course the Super Bowl in 2001 between the Ravens and the Giants. He went to NBC when CBS lost football, and then he had been with CBS all the way until 2022. I mean, he did stuff for the NFL. He did the NFL Today. He did a lot of coverage for the Olympic Games. He did a lot of college basketball. He was one of the main guys at the focus of the March Madness tournament. You would always see him at the beginning of the selection show every year. I mean, the guy had a lot of things that you may have been very familiar with. I mean, the guy had charisma, and the guy was not afraid to go all out whenever something big happened here. I've got a compilation here of some great calls that he made over the course of his career, especially with the NFL, the NBA, the NFL, all that stuff. And I just want to run through these real quickly because there are some great moments here, such as when Joe Flacco threw the game-tying touchdown in that 2012 divisional game against the Denver Broncos, and of course he threw it right to Jacoby Jones, and one of the great calls in NFL history.
Get it done. Flacco stepping up and throwing deep down the far sideline. Caught into the end zone. Touchdown, Jacoby Jones.
I mean, you don't really hear that a lot anymore from most play callers. That high level of intensity whenever you get a big play like that. Even when you watch somebody like Gus Johnson or Brad Nessler, you don't really do that anymore. Neither does Jim Nantz. I think the only person that comes close to doing that is Mike Tirico. And Mike Tirico, of course, has been doing a great job over at NBC as the main play caller the last couple of years. And that's one of the ones I always remember. When it comes to the best Steelers calls of all time, you can't go wrong with this classic one right here. This is a 2002. Oh, actually, before we even get to that, some more. Let's get to some of them. Let's do that. Let's do the Steelers one first. But the one I'm talking about is in 2002, whenever the Steelers were facing the Browns in the playoffs. This was the wild card game where Cleveland had the lead and Pittsburgh had this big comeback in the second half. And this was also the game that introduced the world to Renegade. And if you've ever been to a Steelers game at Heinz Field or Acrisure Stadium, they always play Renegade for the defense in the fourth quarter. And this was the game that started that trend. And it led to it was important for this game because it led to this amazing comeback, which led to one of my favorite calls from him of all time. Let's listen.
Second and goal.
That's Christopher Matu-Malafalo, who scores the game-winning touchdown there. And like, as soon as that happens, you can just hear the electricity just booming inside of Heinz Field when that happened. Let's play it again. Like, that was a game when the Cleveland Browns looked like they were going to just pour it on the Steelers in that game, and just when you think the game's going to be over, it's just like, nope, Steelers come all the way back, and moments like that, just like it's just one of those great moments I always remember in general. And of course, like I said before, he did the NBA as well for NBC, and one of the most notable calls he did was during the 1998 NBA championships, the games that led to the NBA Finals, when the Utah Jazz made it into the finals against the Chicago Bulls, and he was at the call, I believe, I think this is either 97 or 98. It's got to be one of the two. 97. And it was the Western Conference Finals. Here we go.
Stockton, open three. Hit! John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
And of course, he did a lot of stuff for the college baseball series.
Play. 0-1 pitch. Base hit left field. He's going to wave him around. Tucker comes up throwing to the plate. She wins it. What a finish. What a great finish for the LSU Tigers. Discouraging, heartsick loss for the Stanford Cardinals. Disposal today. Coach Tanner is wasting no time in getting someone dizzy. Runners at second and third, nobody out. First pitch swinging, lofts it in the left field. This will be deep enough to get a run home. All the way back to the warning track. God's can't hold on to it. 2 runs will score. Plieski on his way to third and is in there. Here's a liner soft into center field for a base hit. That'll bring 1 runner around.
But then, of course, how can you forget the time when Greg Gumbel was doing March Madness, when he was calling games, when he was doing the halftime show for them, and would hang out with the guys from inside the NBA. And that was probably one of the great things about Greg Gumbel in general, was the fact that he was not afraid to show that he was not comfortable with some of the moments that he had to deal with whenever moments called for it. And I think you know what I'm talking about, when those moments where, like, there's times when Greg Gumbel liked what he did, but at the same time he didn't want to be in that exact area. And some moments in particular, for example, like there was this moment during one of the March Madness years, I think this was 2021, where they had all the guys like dancing to their Wii characters, and they just show them dancing to their Wii characters on the stage that they're on, and then it cuts back to Greg Gumbel, and he has this look on his face like, I do not want to be here right now. Like, he's like, get me the hell out of here.
For all the thrilling moments of the NCAA tournament, check out the Nissan Tip-Off Show. Today it's at 4:30 on TBS with Greg Gumbel and that crew from New York. And maybe there's more of this in store. That was Sunday night. You never know.
Yeah, like, this is incredibly stupid stuff, but the moment that makes this hilarious is just Greg Gumbel's face when they cut back to him. Just watch.
I do like the little emojis, but I don't like the 3 guys behind.
Like, Greg's just like, get me the hell out of here. Like, he's looking at this just like, he's just so disgusted right now, but deep down inside, he probably loved it. And they would do this. I'm laughing so hard I can't stop coughing. But no matter how you really look at it, the guy really did have a rapport with a lot of people. Everyone seemed to really like him. Seemed like a nice guy overall, and he just knew how to line up a room during these big games and all that. Like, he had a voice. He had one of the great voices in sports history, and the fact that he's no longer with us really is very sad to hear about. And I mean, yeah, like I said, not much more. Like I said, he really is one of the great voices of sports, and it's just a shame that we're never going to hear that anymore. And it was a bummer when I heard about this news. It really was, because it was funny, because I was watching old NFL and NBC halftime shows when this news broke on this channel, Classic Sports, and that's when I found out the news. It was just like it just felt like weird, eerie timing on my part. But But nevertheless, Greg Gumbel was one of the best broadcasters out there, one of the great sports broadcasters, and he will definitely be missed, no question about it. Rest in peace, Greg Gumbel. We miss you we'll miss you a lot. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at something else that's going away this week, actually.
Hi, I'm Bob Lee. For the past 16 years, I've been part of something very special here at ESPN called Sportscenter. Yes, Sportscenter is a sports news and information show, but to those of us who actually work here, it's something much, much more. And so it's with a great deal of pride that I invite you, over the next several months, to take a long, hard look at the Sportscenter you've never seen before. A behind-the-scenes exclusive you are sure to enjoy.
And we certainly have had the pleasure of doing that, Bob Lee. That was, of course, Bob Lee from ESPN. And what he's talking about is this is SportsCenter, these collection of commercial ads that began all the way back in 1995. And it was used with the promotion to promote SportsCenter, but it really did become its own thing over the course of the last 30 years, where it was going strong all the way through. And the reason why I'm bringing this up here is that because I just found this out this week that ESPN has announced that they are going to discontinue the This Is SportsCenter campaign after 30 years. They actually announced this early at the beginning of the month. And, of course, they're starting off a new campaign called My Life, My Team. And it's just really, really sad to see this go away. And if you grew up with these back when ESPN was in its heyday and people took it seriously and took SportsCenter very seriously, you saw how important these commercials really were because, This Is SportsCenter really was The Office before The Office. It's very much the same thing in general. Well, you have these commercials where you have the ads presented in a deadpan mockumentary style, lampooning various aspects of sports and sports broadcasting. And the sportscasters were well-known people who were with ESPN. And when you watch these ads, you can definitely tell and see a lot of the inspiration that The Office would later use. The deadpan comedic styles of the situations, the talking heads, the camera work. They really do show a lot of the style that The Office would perfect later on. And it really is I would not be shocked at all if when Ricky Gervais was developing The Office, he didn't get inspiration from this, because it's hard not to imagine why that wouldn't be the case. But while The Office benefited from a cast that can be humorous and act well, a writing staff that can write for comedic and sometimes dramatic purposes, This Is SportsCenter had to rely on ESPN's group of sports broadcasters to act and be comedic, while advertising houses and later ESPN have to write the comedic setups necessary to make the material work, and they pull it off incredibly well. I mean, you never think that guys like Steve Levy, Bob Lee, Charlie Steiner, Scott Van Pelt, Stuart A. Scott, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, Linda Cohen, Susie Colbert, John Anderson, Kenny Mayne, Mike Tirico, among many of the ESPN personalities that they've had over the years, would have been as funny as they were in these commercials, like Stephen A. Smith, Rich Eisen, Chris Berman. I mean, they all pull it off to great effect. If you watch these commercials, you really get a sense of what these commercials are all about and what makes them so special. And they're just so incredibly well put together, and they're just so funny on so many levels.
We've drafted kids right out of high school. We had this one kid. You would not believe the scouting reports. The Rays, up and down, can't miss.
Once again, the Indians appear to be the team to beat.
Emotionally, though, he just wasn't prepared.
Jimmy Key is attempting to come back.
What's he, like 45?
I could hit him.
I mean, it's a different game in here.
Jack, you watch the game? I mean, didn't it suck? It sucked.
It is with much regret that I announced that I am leaving SportsCenter.
Bottom line, he just came out too soon.
The fun fact is that took place. That was made 7 years before LeBron James came out of high school and eventually became the #1 draft pick of the NBA. Sorry about that. I had a cracker in my mouth. But what I was saying was that it's funny how that was made 7 years before LeBron James and before he went from being a high school kid to being the #1 pick in the NBA draft. And ESPN, these commercials predicted the future at times very well, and they can get very silly. They were not afraid to be incredibly silly and incredibly over the top when they needed to be.
As part of our relationship with the NFL and the NBA, we educate first-year players on how to deal with us, with the media. It's kind of like our own rookie camp.
All right, you guys have money, but you don't have attitude. You're too nice. It's pathetic. You're the man. Say it. You're the man.
I'm the man.
Oh, I'm the man. Come on, it's gotta be like, I'm the man. You gotta raise it up like that, buff up a little bit.
You.
I'm the man.
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 I tell you what, it's working. We're making a difference.
And of course, that was Keyshawn Johnson and the late great Kobe Bryant in there, getting advice on how to handle the media with Kenny Mayne and Stuart A. Scott. And he did a ton of commercials with them, with a really, really funny one. My favorite one, I think, is the one where they were talking about how, all right, the game has ended and you lost because of a bad call. What do you say? What do you say to the media? It was a bad call. And then Kenny Mayne's just like, no, it was a bullshit call. And of course, they bleep out the bullshit. And then Stuart A. Scott does the same thing. And it's just like, it's really funny stuff. It is incredibly funny stuff here. One of my favorite ones that doesn't get the attention I think it deserves is the one where Scott Van Pelt, it's one with Scott Van Pelt where, he's doing he's doing SportsCenter, and there's this whole thing where, he starts reeling off these great shows, and, his vocabulary is very smart, if you will, and the whole joke is that it's a performance enhancers, but he's actually using a thesaurus to basically use these new words that he's found, and it's really, really hilarious. It's a really funny commercial.
So Scott started reeling off these great shows, one right after another.
And A-Rod exhibits inordinate aptitude in spheroidal aviation.
Turns out he was using performance enhancers.
I fear that your inquisition will prove fruitless.
Mind telling us what this is?
I don't even know what that is or how you use it.
It looks like a thesaurus.
Unhandy rapscallion!
We got to win back a lot of trust. A lot of trust.
That's one of my favorite Scott Van Pelt lines of all time. Unhand me, rapscallion! Like, I love that. I love that one so much. That's one of my favorite ones. They would bring in, and they of course brought in a lot of guest stars to these commercials. The different athletes and celebrities they bring in, most of them aren't much for acting. And when you ask an athlete to act, you need to make sure you give them material to work with that fits their personalities. And again, doesn't feel like you're just phoning them in there because they're just here because they're here to make a quick paycheck. But they do a pretty good job with bringing these athletes in here. They're able to ride around them, make it work, and they give them just enough to make their appearances work, and it's always a ton of fun to watch. One of the ones that I think everyone remembers when you have Peyton and Eli Manning. They got the Manning family inside the studio, and John Anderson, I think, is giving them a tour, and you just see Peyton and Eli just messing around because they're brothers, and you see Arch Manning turning around, looking and seeing, like, are you boys messing around back there? And they're just still messing around with each other.
Anyway, that's the control room. A lot of chaos
John
there,
Anderson,
but
I'm
it
sorry.
all looks
I
good
think I
when
said
it comes
John
out
Henson.
in the show, actually. Thanks for those people. Then over here in the digital center is our highlight screening area. So that's where we get all the games that are played that night, down in a 90-second or 2-minute clips, or whatever you see on SportsCenter right now. This hallway, it runs between, both rooms. If you want to get from the control room to the screening, then this is the hallway you take. Questions or anything? I can answer whatever you want about the place.
Like, it's silly stuff, it's ridiculous stuff, but it's funny stuff all the way through. And I mean, it just works so well. Even if you look at ESPN as a shell of its former self, one of the few bright spots that the network still has is that ability to do these ads over 30 years after their first appearance, and they keep getting funnier. They're just as enjoyable to watch even after all these years later, and they had to have had an influence of what The Office would eventually become down the road. And they'll still be a ton of fun to watch no matter what happens. Like, they did some recent ones with, one of my favorite ones is the one with Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. And, you have Stephen A. Smith, and I think Neil Everett, and also, I can't remember who the third guy is, but, they are throwing these glass plates, and, they go to Giannis's cubicle, and they're just like, "Hey, Giannis, Opa!" Like, they're throwing it because they think it's a Greek tradition, and even he has to say, like, guys, that's not how that works here. And it's just, again, simple but funny. Stan Verrett is the third guy in this.
ESPN's a melting pot of international talent, and we go out of our way to make everyone feel comfortable.
It's, of course, that Sage Steele, who coincidentally is now working for the Daily Wire, so that opening feels a little bit awkward, but continuing on.
Hey, Giannis. Opa! Opa!
guys know that nobody actually does that in Greece. Giannis. Opa.
It's like even Stephen A. and Neil just like, really, dude? That's one of those ones that I always... That's one of my favorite... That's probably my favorite of the newer commercials they've done. And, yeah, I'm bringing this up because it's a shame to see that these commercials are going away, because I love these commercials. I think they're very funny. They're still very entertaining, even after all these years later. I mean, it's a great series of commercials. I hope that they don't get rid of these for good. Maybe this is just one of those things where they say they're not going to do it again, and then years later they'll bring it back up again, which I really hope they do, because those are still some of the small little relics that still makes ESPN worth a watch even after all these years. And just, it's a shame to see it go away, quite honestly. But I digress. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last thing I want to bring up here, and then I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. So on Christmas Eve, of course everybody's getting ready for the holiday that's coming on the following day, but on Christmas Eve there was a video that showed up on Twitter, and it was somebody, Jermaine Lassou, who used to work at FlashFilm.com, and now he works for IO9 and Gizmodo, and he brought up a tweet that said this: "If you want to know what's wrong with the world, Prime Video has an abridged version of It's a Wonderful Life that removes the entire Pottersville scene where George sees life if he wasn't born." Now, if you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, you know that that is the critical part of the movie. The whole point of the movie is that, you know, Clarence is there to show George Bailey what life would be like if he wasn't there, and sees that the evil Potter has taken over. He doesn't have a family anymore. His mother doesn't even recognize him. Everybody in town doesn't recognize him. They just think he's crazy. And of course, it's a moment where he realizes he's made a terrible mistake, and he's just like, I want to live again at the end of it. But apparently Amazon decided to put this abridged version online that removes the entire scene, the most crucial part of the entire movie. And let me just tell you something. Watching this clip, and just because it starts off with Clarence and George inside of the building where after Clarence falls into the water and then George goes to save him, and this is the moment when when this whole thing's supposed to start, where Clarence is supposed to show him what life was like if George wasn't born, and it starts with them in the lawn is in this room. But then I just want you to listen closely to where the movie then decides to cut off. Actually, let me go ahead and turn the fan off real quick. Yeah, I just turned this off for a little bit here. It's not the best the volume in here is not that great, but it's the only version I've got here. But just listen.
You don't happen to have $8,000 on you.
Now I want you to watch this again real closely, if you know exactly what I'm looking at here. But it's the moment when Clarence says, "Well, I'm here to help you," and George's just like, "Well, do you have $8,000?" I mean, listen again to where the scene cuts off.
You can help me. You don't happen to have $8,000 on you.
They just cut him off during the middle of the line, and then all of a sudden he's just off the bridge, and he's running back in town to say, "Mary, Mary!" I couldn't believe that this was real. I couldn't believe that Amazon had a version of this on there that was this. So I dug in there and I did some research after I found this video just to see, I'm not seeing this. This can't be the only version that they have on there. So I went on there and looked. Let me see if I can find it here. Prime Video. Okay, so here's the thing. Prime Video has a couple different versions of It's a Wonderful Life on there. They have the regular black and white version, which is the regular 2-hour 10-minute version. Then there's also the color version, and then I shit you not, there is an abridged version on here. Let me see if I can find it here. Like I said, the original version is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. This thing cuts out. This is an hour and 46 minutes long. So you're telling me that somebody at Amazon thought that nobody would get the purpose of having the guardian angel tells him to change his life, or to be happy that he's there. But yeah, they took out 24 minutes, the entire 24-minute segment of him seeing what life would be like without him. And it even says here in the description here, this abridged version is a shorter version of the Jimmy Stewart Christmas classic with a condensed ending, but still contains all the sweetness and Christmas wonder. A series of setbacks causes a man to reflect on his life. With the help of his guardian angel, he finds the true meaning of Christmas. Because that's exactly what the movie is about, right? Taking away the true meaning of Christmas, and not wanting to kill yourself and thinking that you would rather be better off if you were not there. And, they did this. They made a version like this, and I could not believe it. I could not believe that a version like this actually existed on here.
Well, you can help me. You don't happen to have $8,000 on you.
How stupid do you have to be? How stupid do you have to be? And it's funny because if you go down and look at the comments below on this tweet, Jermaine Lefsayer has this image on here, has this image from the original version saying that the film has been modified from its original version. The ending has been abridged and running time shortened to 1 hour and 46 minutes. And then it follows with him saying, by the way, yes, Prime does have the real version too, in black and white color. This is just one alternate option. And plenty of people have explained why this even exists, but doesn't make watching it any less weird. It makes no sense whatsoever why to have this version on here. And this is not the first time that we have a movie that has been cut down for no particular reason whatsoever. This happened the very same year, this past year, and it was Miracle on 34th Street, the new version, which was on Freeform during the 25 Days of Christmas. And, I like the movie a lot. I think it's a really good modernized version of the classic story of Miracle on 34th Street. John Hughes wrote it. But this year, for some reason, they decided to just cut off the full ending of Miracle on 34th Street, the remake. And so I was watching this, get ready to watch Home Alone, because it was on right afterwards. But I want you to listen to this, because this is how the movie ended before Christmas on Freeform.
I got a call last night from Mr. Kringle, who said you and your husband were looking for a house. He was quite insistent. Did you get married?
Yeah, last night.
I can't believe it.
Congratulations.
25 days.
25 days.
25 days.
So yeah, they cut the scene off and just go right into a commercial. Listen again.
I got a call last night from Mr. Kringle, who said you and your husband were looking for a house. He was quite insistent. Did you get married?
Yeah, last night.
I can't believe it.
Congratulations.
25 days.
25 days. 25 days.
So the commercials end, and you think, okay, well, they're just going to come back to it. I mean, they just come right back to it, and then they run the credits when the credits are going on, right? Nope. They're just going right into the movie. I mean, you can still see the movie playing in the small little cube on the side there, and then Home Alone is starting up on the main screen right there. And it's just it's unbelievable that this happened. And it's not the first time that Freeform has had some really bad editing problems. I've talked about in videos before about how, one of the biggest ones was last year with Home Alone 2, where they had these weird edits. They took out huge chunks of Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, and it just really feels and it just really I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. One of the first things you notice in Home Alone 2 right from the get-go is that, of course, there's the scene where everybody's running late for the airport, and, there's supposed to be a scene where, they're counting up all the tickets, and they realize that they still have Kevin's ticket, and everyone's just like, where's Kevin? His mother's just like, where's Kevin? And then you see Macaulay Culkin grab the ticket. It's just like, it's a good thing I have my own ticket, just in case you guys try to ditch me. But for some reason, they decide to cut this part out for this weird edit. Yeah, they just cut right to the airport. Like, it's a weird edit. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. And, of course, they've also edited, is like in, there's also another scene later at the airport when, Kevin gets on the plane to New York City, and, there's a whole thing where it's just like, Kevin gets on the plane, and, he's, and the pilot's just like, do you see, the stewardess is just like, do you see your family? And he's like, there's my dad over there. And he's just like, well, go find an empty seat, have a Merry Christmas. And then the movie just decides to cut out the part where, Kevin asked the guy next to him, it's just like, you ever been to Florida? And, like, there's supposed to be this long scene, and it just cuts that scene apart in particular. It's weird.
Ladies and gentlemen, in order for the captain to push back from the gate, we need all passengers to be seated with their seatbelts securely fastened.
But not only that, they also cut out the scene where, Kevin's parents are, his mother's just like, I have that terrible feeling. And the dad's just like, we forgot something? It's like, no, I don't think we did. Like, that whole scene where they're just like, we did everything, we bought everybody, there's nothing to worry about. Like, that scene's completely gone too. As soon as that airplane, as soon as the thing that you get to the airport and goes back into the terminal, they just cut to the plane going up in the air. Like, it just makes no sense whatsoever. Like, there are some edits that kind of make sense. Like, this was also the version that... This was also, they cut out the World Trade Centers in the recent TV edits of it. And that's kind of to be expected. That's been like that in most of the versions for this movie. But then, one of the biggest, what the hell were you thinking when you decided to edit this part out, was the moment when Kevin decides he has to go build traps at his Uncle Rob's place. And one of the great things about the Home Alone movies are the traps. We go to see these movies to see what kind of crazy traps that they're going to set up here. And Freeform basically decides to say, you know what? We don't want to show you what the traps look like. We just want you to know that, hey, traps are getting made. That's all we need you to realize. And this is how the scene literally goes. So you have Kevin going up to Rob's house through the upstairs, and then it shows the map, and then literally the next scene, they cut all the traps out. They cut all the making of the traps. Like, that was one of the that's the fun thing about those movies, is to see the traps being made. I mean, that's the reason why we go to see Home Alone for the most part. We're there for the fun. We're there for the fun. The comment is the family stuff, but we're there also to see the slapstick and the traps. Like, it just makes no sense why to cut that part out. But don't worry, though. We still have this cameo that's still very much needed for the film.
Down the hall to the left. Thanks.
Of course, soon to be our president again, Donald Trump. Of course, they got to keep that in there. But this is not this is just weird editing, not just on so many levels. I think one of the biggest is, and I actually did find what I wanted to talk about here, because this made me laugh pretty hard when I saw this back in 2020. Jingle All the Way, of course, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where, he's out going after the toy. He's getting the treble bed for his kid Jamie. Like, I'm sorry for that, but they aired the movie one time in 2020 where, they played the movie, and then all of a sudden the movie just stops. Like, it's during the big scene where, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in the Turbo Man suit, and he realizes that he can fly in it, and so, like, he's falling through the city, and he's going through the town, flying all across the way. And this is a scene, of course, where Sinbad's character is going after Jamie for the Turbo Man doll, but the movie decides to just stop for no particular reason whatsoever. And I wasn't even going to see, but I was trying to see if I could find it, and it was literally the first thing I found on here. So let's just go ahead and watch it so you can see what I'm talking about here.
I'm getting the hang of this.
And then the movie just stops. Like, you see the end credits on the bottom. It's just like, what the hell is going on? Like, it literally ends like that. Like, I don't understand what happened there. And just like some might say that's an error, but, I think if I remember correctly, there was like an esports event they had to get to at midnight. Well, okay, you had it from 10 o'clock to midnight. Here's a fun idea. Start it at 9:30. started at 9:30 or started earlier in the day. Just like, don't stop it in the middle of one of the big scenes in the movie. Like, they literally stop it when he's literally in the air trying to get back to Jamie and just has trouble getting control of this thing he's in.
I think I'm getting the hang of this.
It's like TBS just said, fuck Jamie. Like, that's all we're doing here. Fuck Jamie. We don't care about him. And it's funny because there's actually a video from Conan O'Brien, who's still doing Conan at the time, where they actually did a video is making fun of the fact that TBS cut away from Jingle All the Way. This is actually really good.
Our network, TBS, was in the news recently, and I'm sorry to say it was in a pretty unfavorable light. You see, last weekend, TBS aired the holiday classic movie Jingle All the Way, and then they completely cut out the movie's ending, enraging Jingle fans everywhere. Yes, people were really, really angry. Now, trust me, I know how much Jingle All the Way means to so many millions of people, so here's what I did. I used my celebrity influence at TBS, and I asked permission to air the unedited ending of Jingle All the Way on our show. I thought that would be a nice way to make amends with the public. Well, guess what? No one at TBS returned any of my calls. So I'm going to take that as a yes. So here, for all you fans, is the Jingle All the Way ending you missed.
Chime in!
Chime in!
Thanks, Turbo Man. I knew you'd save me.
You can always count on me. Yeah, listen up and don't be late while I tell you all the story of Jingle All the Way. Arnold plays the dad, some kid plays the son. Then they both blew up. Now the story is done. That's it, that's all. Don't believe the rumor. I said they both exploded. It's not a tumor.
And I love how it's just the ending with Kindergarten Cop of all things. But yeah, it's just wanted to bring that up because yeah, as much as I still like cable television and the fact that I still use it to watch, of course, live sporting events and other things as well, like stuff like that, just show the movie like it was originally intended to be shown. Like, don't just half-ass it like you guys do it, because it's ridiculous. Like, it's one of the reasons why I always say physical media will never die, because when you have cable networks and streaming services that edit movies like that, it just ruins the whole idea that streaming is the way of the future. It really is not when you're doing stuff like that. But I digress. That's just my personal take on that, and yeah, that's just something I wanted to end the show on here. So with that said, let's go ahead and do some recommendations. We can get on out of here. By the way, there is a reason why the fan is on in the background, because it's 61 degrees out here, a warm 61 degrees in the last days of December, and it just feels very uncomfortable outside. It's been raining all day. It's been just humid and all that. Like, not even humid, but it just is warmer than it has been, than it should be for this time of the year. And I think that's contributing to why I've got, like, the cough and all that. I think it's not just the fact that I've been around so many family members who've been sick, and that's probably a contribution to that too. But as far as the recommendations this week, there's nothing significantly new coming out in physical media, but this coming Friday, Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul comes out, and I've only seen little bits and pieces of it because it hasn't been officially released on Netflix just yet, but the little bits and pieces I've seen from it make me really excited to see the movie. I mean, it's got a lot of high praise coming from most critics online. It's the first major Wallace and Gromit project that has Ben Whitehead as Wallace, after Peter Sallis retired and passed away not too long after that. But yeah, he died back in 2017. I thought he didn't, but of course, this is the movie where Feathers McGraw from the special The Wrong Trousers comes back. It's the second Wallace and Gromit movie after Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and I'm really excited to check it out, man. It comes out on January 3rd on Netflix. I've seen little bits and pieces of it, and I'm ready for it, man. Wallace and Gromit are just great fun all around. I love the last Aardman film they did for Netflix, which was a Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. So I'm really excited to see where they go here with the sequel for this, but that doesn't come out until Friday, so definitely looking forward to checking that out. But like I said, that's going to wrap this up this week. And like I said, I really wanted to do my best and worst TV shows of the year, but just running out of time to do so here. In fact, it's going to be lucky if I get this out before 3 a.m. tonight. But I'll save that for next week. And I think next week should also be a very slow news week in general. It was a very slow news week here in particular. This was just some stuff I wanted to bring up overall. But thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And if you want to see more videos like this and you like what you saw, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, notification button, and also check out some of the other episodes I've done with the most recent episode as well as the playlist below. And so with all of that said, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I hope you had a great Christmas, holiday season, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. I hope you had a great one. And I will see you in the new year. Next time we do this show, it'll be the new year. And I also should mention that Saturday night, because they just announced this on TV, the Steelers and Bengals wrap up the regular season. And I'll be doing a live rewatch of that. And then I'll be following up with a live rewatch of Week 18 on Sunday next week. At least I think I'll be doing that. I'll see what happens. I'll see what happens with that, and see if there's any significant playoff ramifications there. I think the big one's going to be for Saturday, so I might just do the Saturday show and not the Sunday show. So Saturday night, Steelers and Bengals. I'll do a live rewatch of that. I'll have it on here on this channel. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But with all of that said, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great New Year. Happy New Year to all of you, and I'll see you guys in the new year of 2025. So until then, thanks for watching, and we are out.